celestials, slappers, celibates. Nice to see you. Whoever you are, whatever you are, it is a pleasure to have you viewing right here on the Monday FunnyBooks episode -1. Why is it episode -1? Well, we're in a funny bit of transition where we are between season 1 and season 2 of Mondo FunnyBooks. So, while I'm waiting for various videos and arrive so I can start it properly, what I'm doing is this clever thing where I put together various videos as a kind of like, as needed, I'll create something, kind of bespoke thing, and I'm using my clever awareness of stupid numbering tricks that comic publishers have done over the years as a meta thing, right? So we've had episode 0, we've had episode half, we've had episode -1. I'm not sure which other ones there have been, so hopefully either the stuff will arrive or nothing else will happen for a bit. I see that not being likely. So if you guys can think of any other weird numbering things that comic publishers have done, like, give me a shout. Anyway, this is Mondo FunnyBooks. It's Monday night. I'm Filthy Nevs, and this is Mondo FunnyBooks -1. It's the big Schill Dork. Why is it called that? Well, so as you may or may not know, me and Captain Crappy, who is the superhead, the mustached and musicianly patriarch of the whole channel, have been going through his collection of comics that are sitting in his fine shop, the Fandom Iconic Outpost in Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio. And we have been having a long period of just going through the stuff, going, oh my god, that's there, that's there, that's there. And we found lots of cool bits, and I want to direct you to the page that will be opening in a few days. And also, thank you, Dave. I will put up a link to the page now, so I don't forget, and I don't have too many windows running at once. Shambhala. Hey, Dave. Okay, turns out can I not post comments on my own thread? Ah, there we go. Okay, so if you look in the comments now, you will see the fact. Whoa, 15 comics and related pages. Hello, several groups at once. Holy shit. Hello, the internet. Wow, Dave's super efficient. So to recap, we have found lots of cool things, right? And obviously I'm not in Ohio, I'm in London, but I do have a couple of the bits that we have found, and one of them is one of my favourite comics of all time. So, as a kind of infomercial combined with a weirdo episode, I want to combine the two concepts at once. So we will get to the comic in question. However, before we do that, I want to bring up the E-word. E-word? E-word? E-word. And for any of you who have contemplated what they were going to read or what they were going to buy or what film to watch, you may well have been called this. And the E-word is elitist. It's very, very easy to be an elitist these days. All you have to do is show a degree, a modicum, an iota of critical facility. Which is, if you're someone who doesn't believe in advertising being a good idea in terms of how it relates to whether you should read something or not, then you will be called an elitist, okay? If you don't eat the first thing that's literally in your proximity when you're hungry, you're an elitist because you showed a degree of taste and a desire. And I don't know why this camera seems to be zooming in so much, but it's a bit weird because I've put a lot of work into tonight's set, and it's not really coming up. Anyway, so what happens when you get called an elitist is people kind of don't like that. They think that, like, you're suggesting you're better than them. They find that a kind of a threat, and it's a bit weird, right? Because it's not a threat, it's just I have read some of these things, I have watched some of these things, they were not to my taste. Am I suggesting that you are an inferior person because you choose to read something I don't? No, I'm not. I mean, with the best will in the world, I don't care. It's the honest truth. If you want to watch The Real Housewives of Norwich, if you want to read X-Force versus Youngblood or Amazing Spider-Man, what difference does that make to my life? None, right? It's none of my business. If you want to read it, read it. If you want to watch it, watch it. If you want to listen to it, listen to it. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. I have nothing to gain from any of that kind of stuff. I don't have any investment. So, the other thing is, obviously, you think, this is a thing I've heard a lot, right? You think you're too good for superhero comics. You think, well, here's the thing. I do quite like superhero comics. I just don't think they're the peak of the medium. I think if you were to go through a medium that has turned out, off the top of my head, right, Little Nemo in Slumberland, the collected works of Crumb, the works of Kate Beaton, or Alison Bechdel, or George Harriman, or Kazuhiro Otomo, or Junji Ito, or Mebius, or Jodorowsky, right? You think of all of those particular peaks of what can be done with comics. I could not possibly say to you that I think DC's Event Leviathan is anywhere near that. But if they're going to exist, that's fine. I don't have a problem with them. I just don't think they need to be taken or written as seriously as they are. They're just, they're like rom-coms. They're like soap operas. They're a genre for a certain readership, and that's it. And that's fine. You don't have to you don't need to be defensive about them. Just don't try and boost them into something they're not. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, as usual, tonight's sponsor is Rockstar. Did they know about it? No. Did I buy a can? Yes. Can I do what I want with the can? Who knows? If we get sued by Rockstar, it's probably more publicity than this show ever gets. So, as you can see, or possibly not in the background, there are examples of some superhero comics which are quite fun, right? It's not part of a huge, tapestry epic thing. You just read it and you go, meh, that was quite funny. It was a laugh. It played with the genre. It took my far too much information about this product and it skewed them, and it was cool. So we've got Tales of the Bizarro World right up there, which is a collection of 1960s Bizarro comics with a pretty cover by Jamie Hernandez, who is obviously the best comic artist. That's an objective opinion. I'll see you in the comments about that. It was written at a time when this stuff was never going to be collected. Nobody knew that there were going to be trade paperbacks. These comics were created to come out and disappear, and that was it. So I presume you spend too much time in the DC offices in the 1960s with no air conditioning and the India ink smell, and you get stuff like Bizarro, and they're very silly and they're very fun and they're standalone stories. And then we had Strange Tales, which was basically Marvel saying, here are some good comic creators who couldn't probably do a regular book, but do you want 6 pages to do a Spider-Man story or a Ghost Rider story? And it's that kind of stuff I find fun, right? We just go, here is a complete story in 8 pages, because this is my theory of comics, right? Ultimately, I think the EC comics are the peak of the medium in the West. I think the idea that you have, and this is stuff that's published at a time where it has to go out on the newsstands and compete with the New York Times or with Life magazine or Time magazine or every other comic on the shelf, and that's your competition. And still, these were the best-selling comics of the period. When you can create 8 stories designed around a theme, 8-page stories designed around a theme, if you can get it in that, right, and you can get people to come back, you've cracked it. Once you can do that, 9 pages is a luxury. Again, these are standalone stories, so you've got to create a world, characters, a plot, a theme, and a resolution of some kind in a tiny amount of space. So then Will Eisner used to do frequently, and that's the best I think American comics have ever been, and everything else has been kind of gilding the lily. So, what else? So, we've got Sergio Aragonés, one of the best men in comics. Sergio destroys DC. Just takes a whole bunch of contemporary norms of 90s DC comics, takes the neck, lots of lots of in-house fun jokes going on. Bob's your uncle. What else have we got here? We've got Mini Marvels, which was a cartoon strip that used to run in the pages of most Marvel books. You get like a free panel strip. It would just be basically like a cutesy retelling of current events in comics. So they do Civil War, but they do it in like 7 pages, and it was over whose turn it was to like wash up in the Avengers mansion and stuff. That kind of cool stuff. You know, again, stuff's meant to be fun. It's not meant to be this huge Bible degree of sanctimony and to be taken very seriously. And yes, the Green Lantern did use his power ring and whatever. It's no fun, my friend. It's no fun. But what this brings us to, because I'm not going to overrun with this episode, there's no need for it to be an extremely long one, is one of my favourite comic creators, a chap called Even Dorkin, who most famously does a strip called Milk and Cheese, the dairy products of spite. I discovered these at a friend's house while on quite a lot of acid, actually. But yeah, Milk and Cheese hate stuff. That's what happens. They're usually at their place, and then they see a thing that is terrible on TV, and they go to it and they beat it with hammers while making lots of hilarious jokes. And that's it. Like, that's been the same concept. And like Dorkin said repeatedly, I don't know what else to do with these characters because it's basically the same strip. It's not a continuing thing. It's just these guys go out, they hit stuff. There's usually something completely unreasonable going on in the pages of the strip, and then we move on to the next issue. It's also in a thing that will probably be a bit more recognisable to the rest of the world. Hang on, he said, trying not to drop everything. Try to stay there, Oscar. Bill and Ted's comics. Somehow he got the gig doing Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures for Marvel when the films were big news back in the 90s? 90s? Who knows? It's all a blur once you get to the 20th century, and to the end of the 20th century. Anyway, yeah, he did this. And this was reprinted, was it Boom? Dorkin? I can't find the publisher. Big A on it, but I've got a can in my hand. Anyway, this is what the cover looks like. He did a new issue recently. So, let's take a break to see what people are saying. Probably the sound's knackered or something. La la la. Okay, so that's Buddy saying I am here. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so I put up something quite funny on on my favourite comics group, Out of Context Comics, and I'm still getting reactions. So, Dorkin, what did we get? We got Milk and Cheese, we got Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. This, like, I'm going to do a show on my favourite 90s independent comics, because this was the stuff I needed at that point where I grew out of superhero comics. And it's just like too much Coffee Man and Hate and Hepcats. But this was the one I kept coming back to. There was an anthology which featured Even Dorkin and also Carl Baker and Stephen DeStefano, whose name we'll hear in a bit. And was it Robbie Bush was the other one? Oh, and Mark Badger. So this is Instant Piano. It's awkward because I think there is some kind of, or was some kind of animosity between the creators, so there's never been a book of these. It's an anthology where you get all kinds of awesome strips by Badger and Dorkin and Baker and Bush and DeStefano. And it only ran 4 issues, which is a great shame, and it was apparently quite hard work to get out, and the issues have been reprinted in various forms. Like Carl Baker's pages are now back in his own stuff. Carl Baker does quite a lot of stuff via Amazon now, so if you want his stuff, go look up his Amazon page. The Even Dorkin pages, I believe, are reprinted in his own book, Dork, or possibly, wouldn't swear to it right now, in the pages of Dark Horse Presents, which seems to be like his main outlet for things. So, Instant Piano, you've probably never heard of these. Absolutely pick them up. Okay, so I have a problem when people just say it's good, and that's why, so I'd like to expand a bit. You know what? This is kind of off the cuff, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I've been meaning to publicise this in some way, and I'd forgotten where the essay was, and now I've just found it. So, ladies and gentlemen of the entire comics community that is currently watching, for your audio pleasure, I'm going to do a reading of the strip Girlfriend Shirts by Kyle Baker from Instant Piano #1. Let's watch the friend amount and base dislike comments come up. So, if you've never seen it before, Instant Piano #1, this is the strip. I cannot remember if Kyle has reprinted this anywhere off the top of his head, so we will see. Girlfriend Shirts. I'm going to put on my glasses for this. Bear with me. Rawr. That wasn't bad. Men. You've seen them. You've probably got one. I'm talking, of course, about one of the most insidious devices of the 20th century, although I suspect that its origins can be traced back to some arcane pre-industrial sorcery, perhaps even back to the time where people used to paint themselves and eat roots and hallucinates for reasons other than recreational. I am talking to you, men, as men, about the nefarious and infernal girlfriend shirt. Men! How many times has this happened to you? Your girlfriend gives you a perfectly innocent looking shirt, so innocent in fact, that it seems like exactly the type of thing that you may have purchased for yourself had you thought of it. Perhaps it is your favourite colour, the colour of shirts you yourself have bought. Perhaps it goes perfectly with a pair of pants you own, but rarely wear because you've never found a shirt to match with them. Perhaps here's a t-shirt sporting the image of your favourite musician. Whatever it is, this shirt suits your taste perfectly, and you feel fortunate to be dating someone who knows you quite so well. And yet, when you put it on, or go to the office, or have a lunch with the guys, or you stop into your favourite bar after work before going home, inevitably, people will ask, "That's a nice shirt. Did your girlfriend buy it for you?" It is then, dear reader, that you realise you have been duped. You have been branded somehow. You have been suckered into wearing a shirt that says to the world, "I am attached." You might as well be wearing a wedding ring, for Christ's sakes. You are wearing a girlfriend shirt. You can think of no other good reason to stop wearing it. After all, it is your favourite colour, or your favourite band or cartoon character. Anyway, she is a wonderful woman, and you would marry her if you weren't terrified that you would meet somebody better immediately after you said "I do," and if you could be sure she wouldn't age quite as badly as her mother has. So you, my friend, are stuck. You have no choice but to wear this shirt, which you are convinced has been treated with some kind of ultraviolet chemical that only women can see, but somehow men can sense. Besides, if you stop wearing it, you'll know why. And here, dear colleagues, learned friends, are the warning signs of a girlfriend shirt. 1. An antique. Men have no idea where to find a good-looking shirt for under $10. 2. It looks good with your green suit, but only your green suit. Always a sign men will never buy shirts that go well with only one outfit. And finally, your favourite cartoon character. Always a sign of the girlfriend shirt. Although you may love Charlie Brown, you'd never buy a Charlie Brown shirt for yourself. Once presented with a free one, however, you think to yourself, "How thoughtful, of course. I love Charlie Brown. How has it never occurred to me to buy this shirt?" How indeed, unless, of course, it is the infamous girlfriend shirt. So, yeah, that's the kind of thing that's in Instant Piano, but also lots of Dork and stuff. Anyway, this is not the thing that I am here to promote. This was merely a stopgap on the road. I do have a plan, but sometimes my road planning needs to stop. Get itself a drink. So yeah, I think I've made my point. There is room in the industry and in the world for lots of silly superhero comics that don't take themselves very seriously and can be fun. My favourite one at the moment, in fact, is another name that will come up soon. Batman's Scooby-Doo adventures. The more learned of the comic book fraternity will recognise this, of course, to be a take on David Mazzucchelli's famous Batman Year One promotional artwork featuring Scooby and Shaggy-Doo. Because Batman can cross over with Scooby-Doo because they're both fictional characters. I know, right? There are different definitions of characters. So, speaking of reality splitting and all that, as we do, let's get to the second of cans. Oh, it's quite good. It is, the reason I'm not particularly tarted up tonight is it is melting over here in the UK. It is steam full on, hence the absence of scarves or leather jackets or any of that malarkey. So before we get to the main event, I'm just going to have another quick check on the comments, see what people are saying, see if there's anything I've forgotten. Song's finding what I've said funny. Well, Song, the reason you find it funny because we both live the same life, my friend. In fact, I seem to be dressed as you tonight. That's a bit weird. Yeah, tonight I'm cosplaying my mate Song Riddle, who is a fucking amazing artist, and you should look up his work on Instagram at Song Riddle, all one word, no punctuation things, just lowercase Song Riddle. Anyway, yes, look up Song Riddle's artwork because he's fucking great. So, while we were going through the boxes, and there's a lot of War comics to come, there's a lot of Flash, there's a lot of Green Lantern, some other interesting bits, like some key first appearances. I think we're going to go live with the whole thing, like either Wednesday or Thursday. It depends on how much more there is to process. I imagine quite a lot. But yeah, if you look in the comments of this, you will see Fandom Iconics. The Fandom Iconic of the sales page. Yeah, that's what it is. Fandom Iconic sales page. It's a private group. Hopefully, this will encourage you to come join, because we will have lots of interesting things. So cool that I don't even know what they all are yet, which is always fun. And also looking at the boxes, there are the cutest Punisher skulls that people have drawn onto the boxes, which has cheered me up no end. However, so how we've been doing this, because obviously my arms are not long enough to reach to a box in Ohio, is that Cap has been sending me photos. God bless him and Kevin Frazee, who's been doing a show called Kevin Frazee Fries. They have gone through each box, taking a photograph of a comic at a time and sending it to me. You can probably get about 200 comics in a short box. So that's been our week. Here is that. Okay. Oh, that's quite interesting. Who drew that? Yada yada yada. The thing that stopped me dead in the pub the other night was a copy of my favourite, probably it's in my like top 10 favourite DC comics ever published, was a copy of World's Funnest, as written by Even Dorkin and drawn by a host of artists that we'll get to in a second. Now this is a super rare thing because it was a prestige format DC comic, and people didn't really read the solicitation, and I think it was like, what, $8? Oh, it's $7, but like this is $7 in turn of the century money, not like 2021 money, so people were kind of like, ooh, that's a fair old whack. And it wasn't in continuity, and it was kind of weird, and I was like, what is this? Well, dear viewers, your boy Filthy knows to tell you exactly what this is. So, you will note the cover. Atop a stack of Supermen and Batmen of parallel realities fights the Batmite and Mr Mxyzptlk, or Mxyzptlk, or I tell you what, one of you in the comments, you tell me how to pronounce that correctly, and I'll absolutely care. Anyway, those two have had a bit of a rivalry over the years, and what you may or may not know about the DC Universe is, despite all their attempts to streamline it into one continuous timeline, it's had a number of universes, right? And it was always quite a good explanation, like, why is Superman in the Justice Society in World War II, and if he was around in World War II, how did World War II last more than 2 minutes? Different reality. Oh, okay, but what about the show? Another reality. And you just end up with this like bunch of different timelines, much like the Marvel multiverse is about to be, where you just say, oh, that happened in that reality, and on this timeline this happens, and Dark Knight Returns is not a continuity thing, it's just its own little story that happens in of itself. Same with Watchmen, same with Kingdom Come, same with the Milestone books. Just do what you want, or the DC cartoon animated stuff, or the stuff where Batman hangs out with Scooby-Doo. They're just different realities. And what happens in this particular tale, as written by Even Dorkin, is that Mr Mxyzptlk, whatever, and Batmite decide to go full scale with their rivalry, because Mxyzptlk's argument is always Superman is the best, and Batmite, being a space midget cosplayer, sorry, space dwarf cosplayer, I apologise, thinks Batman is the best. So they traverse from universe to universe. Oh, that's a good sentence. Yeah. Traverse from universe to universe. Anyway, blowing stuff up. And not just any universe to universe of fudge malarkey. No, dear viewers, no. This is a bit special. So you kick off with this kind of Dick Sprang looking Batman, Superman, World's Finest era looking stuff, right? This is basically what your average 1950s DC comic looked like. Quite barrelly chested, primary colours at work, lots of exposition, everything's fine. Then it carries on a wee bit more. Oh, there's some malarkey going on here in the lovely Silver Age. And as we carry on, things get a little bit more intense, and they Mr Mxyzptlk is trying to kill all of Batman's friends and foes, and same with Batman, doing similar with Superman's pals and gals. And this does lead to one of the most outrageous panels ever. It's a bit difficult because it's a square bound book, but see in the bottom here, oh yeah, I was supposed to this panel here, where you see young Jimmy Olsen and Perry White in heaven meeting Caesar. As Caesar says, yes, you're in heaven and you can shut up now. Because obviously, in joke, Perry White is always saying, great Caesar's ghosts. It's a bit in jokey, but you know. So we carry on and things get a bit heavier, and then you get the kind of Legion of Superheroes thing. And my god, I worked in a shop called 30th Century for 20 years. I could not name 5 members of the Legion of the Superheroes now, but I could, but one of them would be Arm Fall Off Boy. That's a real thing that happened. I mean, it didn't really happen, but it happens in a comic, and as far as I'm concerned, unless you burned every copy of a comic and delete all of the digital files and remove it from reality entirely, it happened somewhere. Alright? I don't care what anyone says, that's how my headcanon works. So this rivalry is kind of getting a bit intense, and you know, they kind of expand to a size where they're literally, I keep on forgetting this is on a mirror. Right, there you go. They're smacking up the earth there. That's just how it goes. Things get a bit heated. Then the Spectre kicks in. Of course he does. God bless him. This has got a bit heavy now. I don't know if that's the original Spectre or the one where Hal Jordan kind of atones for his time of genocide, because there was a Green Lantern who committed genocide and became the Spectre as a kind of like, I've done bad here, I need to hang about in a big green cape judging people. That'll totally work. So they wipe out the universe because, you know, Monday night, you've kicked off a bit, eventually you've wiped out a universe. That's just how things go. Things got a bit wild, fam. That's how it is. And then we get to the Golden Age. And of course the Golden Age, not known for its particularly metatextual or complicated things, are just like, good heavens, what are these strangely attired things? And then they go to the Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters universe, and here's where it starts to get a bit, oh hang on, who's drawing this? Because it's our old fetishy chum, Frank Cho. He's drawing all this stuff, and I'm almost 100% convinced that he requisitioned this so he could draw the Phantom Lady, because it just seems like the kind of thing that Frank would do. I don't know how well it's coming across, but it's full Frank. Then we get to the Captain Marvel universe, as in the Shazam universe, but it was called Captain Marvel then. because, like, I'm not going into it. Okay, if you want to look it up, why Captain Marvel is now Shazam, that is entirely your affair, and why I could get an episode out of it, not be an exciting episode. And then once they've done the Captain Carrot universe, as drawn by Scott Shaw, they hit the real world. Things get a bit heavy. They're a bit freaked out, and they're like, "Oh my God, let's get out of here!" And we skip ahead to, I think this is even Dorkin, and I wouldn't swear to it. I'm thinking it is. Dorkin drawing a full-on dark side Jack Kirby fourth world degree of parody, or pastiche, or homage, or whatever the correct phraseology is. It's just well cool, like full-on dark side, giving it some hand, saluting, or bow before him. Then you get from there to the Wonder Twins universe, obviously. If you don't know who the Wonder Twins are, by golly, they are a Google search that you will enjoy massively. Then you get Bruce Timm, because they go to the DC animated universe, where it's all in storyboard form. And then they end up in the Dark Knight Returns universe, as drawn by fearsome Frank Miller. So it's all the gritty dialogue, all the must move past punctured lung, that kind of thing. And from there, we've got a 90s bit. 90s aesthetic is not particularly my jam. You've got Phil Jimenez doing a particularly bang-on George Perez Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of thing, where they end up there, and my God, I can't even imagine how many characters are in there. Like Crisis on Infinite Earths, honestly, it's one of those comics. It isn't so much a story as a scoreboard. So yeah, but my God, look at these. Like, Perez is not a bloke who skimps on his background details, so if you're doing a pastiche of him, like him and Phil has done here, you're gonna pack a lunch, and like, it's gonna be a whole thing that goes on, and you're working through the night to ink all 92 characters in the third panel. And then Mr Mxyzptlk goes full on, having a big scream. And then they end up in the Kingdom Come universe, as drawn by Alex Ross. This is a real thing. Like, this isn't a pastiche. This is, like, Alex Ross doing his Kingdom Come universe. So, yeah, I'm not going to tell you what the ending is. However, just to give you a checklist of all your players on this particularly rare item, even Dorkin wrote it, right? But then you've got Michael Rudd, Brian Bolland, Frank Cho, Phil Jimenez, Stuart Immerman, Jamie Hernandez, Stephen DeStefano, fearsome Frank Miller, affable Alex Ross, tremendous Ty Templeton, boisterous Bruce Timm, jungle Jim Woodring, savvy Scott Shaw, jocular Jay Stevens, and nefarious Norm Rapmond. Maybe that's a segment I should have worked out first. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is, this is, in this form, extremely rare, a nightmare to get hold of, because of its low print run. It has been reprinted in one of the Justice League compilations of these things. If that book's still in print, I don't know. But we will have a copy up for sale on the Fandom Iconic sales page in the next couple of days. So, for a quite reasonable price, I think, this fine tome of funny book silliness can be yours. So yeah, go join the page and check out the other things that we'll be putting up. There's going to be one other super special thing that's going to be a bit tricky because I don't have a copy of it, but we'll find a way. Anyway, that's all for now. This has been Mondo Funny Books -1. It's the big Schill Dork. Thank you very much for watching. Later on tonight, Captain Crappy will be on the Fandom Iconic YouTube channel with his Monday night chat. I'll stick a link to that after this is said and done. And yeah, thanks for watching. And remember, Filthiness always says two things: if you can't start none, There won't be none. And if you fuck around, you will find out. Alright, thanks for watching, boys and girls. Be good, and as I always say, if you can't be good, don't get caught.